Well, welcome to this week's Phoenix News exclusively here on Phoenix TV. And I guess the big story of the week has to be the injury sustained by netminder Scott Fankhouser last weekend in Belfast. Luckily for the Phoenix, only the one game last weekend when we travelled to Belfast and came out on the wrong end of a 6-2 scoreline from a game that actually, up until the turning point, which was late in the second period, the Phoenix were more than well in. The scoreline was 1-1 when a couple of incidents, one involving Carlisle Lewis and Tony Hand, and then the second one involving Brett Cloutier and Ed Courtney, saw Brett Cloutier penalised, and the Giants took the lead on the resulting power play. And then practically as soon as Brett came out of the penalty box, him and Carlisle Lewis dropped the gloves and duked it out, with both men picking up 5-minute majors. Shortly after that, Mark Morrison and Luke Stauffacher, they also dropped the gloves and had a set two as well. The net result of that was that the Giants lost Lewis and Morrison, arguably a second and a third liner, while the Phoenix lost two second liners, and that didn't help the cause. The Giants scored a third goal to take the second period 2-0, and then obviously with Scott Fankhouser struggling with his knee injury, the Giants kind of ran away with it in the final period. But they were on the back of an 11-game winning streak going into that game, and they subsequently extended the streak on the Sunday night when they won by the same scoreline, 6-2, in Nottingham against the Panthers. But let's get back to Scott Fankhouser, and enough of the Belfast Giants. Scott Fankhouser came back from Belfast nursing a knee injury. The good news is that it is not, or it does not appear to be as serious as it was possibly first expected to be. He's had treatment this week with a physiotherapist, and he's had treatment every day, and will get treatment every day over the weekend. He will not ice this weekend in the two games at the milestone against the Cardiff Devils and Nottingham Panthers. Stephen Fone will step into his place from the Coventry Blaze. But the good news is Scott Fankhouser has been examined. He is receiving treatment, and fingers are very much crossed that Scott will be back in the lineup a lot quicker than was potentially first expected. We haven't got an exact time as to how long he'll be out, but hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later. But stepping into the breach this coming weekend is Steve Fone, 21-year-old, originally from Rotherham in South Yorkshire, been with the Coventry Blaze for the past 2 seasons, and when the club spoke with Coventry very, very late last Saturday night after the game in Belfast, Coventry were only too willing to oblige and let us borrow Steve Fone, and we were very grateful for them. Now, we know that we've had a little bit of criticism in certain quarters for not giving Ben Schofield or Adam Summerfield the chance to step up and play. Well, there's a good reason behind that. It would be grossly unfair on either Ben or Adam to be expected to come in and play 60 minutes on this weekend. And in fact, it would probably be 120 minutes for Adam Summerfield had we gone that way, because Ben Schofield has actually got an ENL game with the Phoenix ENL side on the weekend. So unless they could have split it, it would have been 2 games for Adam, and that would have been grossly unfair to expect a lad who's playing in the under-18 team to step up and play at elite league level, not just for the last 5 or 10 minutes of a game, but for the full 60 minutes. Adam is having a great year with the under-18s, as you all know, or hopefully you all know. They remain unbeaten following their 15-3 victory over Grimsby Blackhawks last weekend, and the last thing the club wants to do is to do anything that might hurt his confidence for those 3 remaining games that the under-8 teams have got left. So hence the move late last Saturday to try and find a replacement keeper who's got elite league experience of having played and not just trained as well. Stephen Fone is that man. He joins us for the weekend, and we just hope everyone will get behind him, and hopefully he'll do the business for us on Saturday and Sunday. Now, turning our attention to those games on Saturday and Sunday, the Cardiff Devils arrive on Saturday for the 6:30 face-off in the Silver Blades Ice Dome. 6:30 on Saturday, 5:30 on Sunday, please remember that. The Devils, though, they've had injury problems of their own. Starting netminder Phil Ozair, who recently had an operation, well, he's still on the road to recovery and is very, very, very doubtful whether he will take any part in Saturday's game in the Ice Dome. Probably Joe Myers will continue to deputise in the Cardiff Devils goal. Jared Adams, the player coach, he's out with a broken toe. Mike Pipprich, who came in just before Christmas. Well, he's done for the season. He won't be playing either. Paul Samples had an operation on a knee. He won't be playing. And the other big doubt for the Cardiff Devils is their classy defenceman, Tyson Teplitsky. Teplitsky, who people in South Wales tell us never gets injured, well, he's been struggling now for a couple of weeks. And sources down in Cardiff suggest that if he does play on Saturday, then he will not be 100%. So that's a bit of a risk from the Cardiff Devils' point of view. They've also got doubts over Lee Cowmeadow, their utility forward, whether he'll take any part in the action as well. So Cardiff could be coming into Manchester with as many as 6 regular first-team players missing from their lineup. But that doesn't mean it's going to be a walk in the park for the Manchester Phoenix, because they've still got some classy players up front. Jason Silverthorne and Max Beerbrouwer, Matthias Patrico and Sylvain Deschâtelet, who, considering that he was given his marching orders earlier in the season and then turned his form around, has become probably, arguably, the Devils' signing of the season. Because he's been knocking goals in for fun since he was told to get on his bike. Obviously, he isn't leaving now, and with their injury crisis, there's no way anybody will be leaving the Cardiff Devils. Big bad Brad Voth is back in the lineup following his suspension, and Brent Pope, who was previously the general manager and bench coach, well, he too is back in the lineup as well for the Cardiff Devils. Brent Pope, well, he's been around a good number of years, and hopefully our speedy forwards might be able to take some advantage of Pope when they bear down his wing. So here's to a big night on Saturday when the Phoenix take on the ever so injured Cardiff Devils. Sunday night, the Nottingham Panthers roll into town, and they'll obviously be cock-a-hoop following their win on Wednesday night this week, when they took a 6-3 lead from the first leg of the Challenge Cup final against the Sheffield Steelers in Sheffield. Kevin Bergin struck a hat-trick, but it has to be said that the Panthers were outshot something like 15-4 in the first period before they finally got to the pace of the game and really then began to take it to the Sheffield Steelers, who, by the way, didn't have Jody Lehman in goal. They had Davy Lawrence between the pipes. Jody Lehman, well, it's understood that his wife went into labour on Wednesday and he chose to be with his wife, and as they expected the birth of a child, and hence Davy Lawrence was between the pipes for the Sheffield Steelers, and no doubt that was the boost, just the boost that the Nottingham Panthers needed to take into that game. So the second leg back in Nottingham in a few weeks' time, with the Panthers seemingly having one hand on the Challenge Cup already. But they will come in on Sunday night, and it promises to be another terrific game. Games with the Panthers this year have been tough encounters, to say the least. But it will be a very special night on Sunday in the Silver Blades Ice Dome. A couple of weeks ago, you may remember, Tony Hand scored his 3,000th point in regular league season play. That was with an assist on a Joe Tolari goal in the 4-0 drubbing of Sheffield in the Hallam FM Arena. I'm sure